Keith Passmore checks in, and so does Riley Griffin with 2.8 seconds on the clock. Arkansas up by 3 at the break. Yeah, that was some
They couldn't hear anything. It says you're unmuted. Can people online hear us now?
Gloria can hear you all the way to Costa Rica.
Okay, we've got. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, Mr. Crossan. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments that you'd like to share?
Nope.
Anyone else?
Well, I was just wondering that I agree with Holly. I thought it was a good presentation. I appreciated the work that was done. And I would like clarification that if it's in fact, if he was paid 90% of, like I sent in that email, if the commissioners okayed 90% of that as done, was that not agreeing that it was done correctly and good? Can I have some clarification on the payment there that was given to Whiskey Rock?
I can't give you that clarification. Maybe at a Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Kenny, I can't give you clarification on that as well. They made a motion to terminate it, and there was minimal discussion on it. And it was the discussion was to terminate the contract and pay out the remainder. That was what I thought.
Thank you.
I guess I'll also just, Holly and I came into this a little bit late. I understand this has been a 5-year process at this point. My major question, I guess, would be like what the deficiencies are other than the process. Like, are we just upset that the contract wasn't fulfilled exactly how it was written, or is the end product actually deficient in some way? I mean, we or previous board members submitted the changes, the red line copy, and it was refined. I understand if things were put in that weren't requested. My concern is if we go back and rewrite what's the angle, I guess. Like, are they unhappy with the end product because it doesn't meet certain members' desires, or is it actually the community that's been complaining about it? Everybody I've talked to, I mean, if we're going in to simplify and remove stuff, then I'm all for it. But if it's to, create more regulation to fit certain people's special interests, then I'm not interested in that. I don't know if that's a answerable question, but what are the deficiencies? What are we trying to fix?
I would say that we're trying to create a set of regulations that represent Sublette County interests.
And this document doesn't do that.
I do not think it does that.
Okay.
I think that one of the things too is that what we submitted, what I would say just in the history of this, one of what we submitted to the Board of County Commissioners in October of 2023 was very much a work in process. It was not what we considered final. There was, in fact, dozens and dozens of questions in there that we had and things that we said, we can come back to this later. We got to figure this part out, or we'd love some input. We'd like to engage with the consultant around these things. And we thought that it would then, that it was supposed to be 3 months. It would come back to us. We'd have some conversation. We'd be able to continue working on. We always planned on continuing to work on it as the Planning and Zoning Commission once it came back. This is not new. I think we just thought we would be further ahead in the process. So just for some context and background there.
Well, I mean, if that's you mentioned we weren't at the meeting, but if the commissioners want to, I mean, we have to do what if they're not going to approve it? I mean, we could pass it along and they could say, no, we want you to rework it. Which I don't know if that would be a better way of doing it. Just so that we have some clear direction in what they want us to work on. But to Blake's point, I guess, like if we don't have a timeline, it could be another 5 years and, you know, a new set of commissioners that want something completely different. And this just goes on in perpetuity. So it would be good to have a little more direction, I guess, on what the deficiencies are, what their expectations are, and some sort of a timeline that we can actually aim for.
Yeah. Well, I think that in some ways, I agree. I would love direction. I think that would be good. I'd say that in addition to that, we do have. I mean, I'm not saying all is lost on the work that was done by the consultant. I think that there's a lot of good things in there. I think that, well, I'll say you had said maybe we send it along to the commissioners. I would say they asked us to specifically work on it. So I don't think that would be appropriate to vote this through at this point. But I do think we have the benefit of having that and we take it as input. Unfortunately, there's things in there that we won't know about why certain things were done. But I think that we have it for our use to use as input into the process.
So they, just to be clear, they asked you at the commissioner meeting to bring that back because I haven't heard anything from them. I don't know what the proper channels of that are. So you were there as a representative of P&Z, or what was the?
Well, there was a conversation about the regulations and I was there. Yes. And so they asked questions of me. I answered questions. We discussed.
And they asked you to come back to us and to do.
What I said at the beginning of the meeting is what was the outcome of that meeting. Yes.
Okay.
So my question, and you may or may not know this, have they read through the red line? Have they read through what Jeremy sent us?
I got the impression that they had, yes. But they would have to answer that question. Any other comments from the commissioners? Otherwise, we'll turn it over to public comment. Yeah.
I mean, I guess, you know, I'm still a little confused by the process. Like, would it be possible to get, I don't know if we need to go to their meeting or they need to come to our meeting or something, but like this sort of playing telephone thing. I don't know if that's how it's normally done, but it would be nice to have some sort of directive from the commissioners that was voted on, that this is what they want us to do, rather than you were at a meeting and, you know, maybe as a representative or not, and then they spoke to you and you're coming back to us with this information. Like, was there consensus among them?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was. Please.
So this, and I apologize, I'm just sitting in the back trying to find some couple of things in my email. And at the meeting, I got up and talked about this issue as well with the Board of County Commissioners, talking about process. So the reality is that right now, and the way that the statute structures it, and the regulations follow this same pattern, is that planning and zoning, this group U5 here, own the regulations from the perspective of going through them and suggesting a rewrite. So at this point in time, the question of, well, what do they want us to do? I understand that it's really important to have that guidance.
But just as I told them, when they were talking about the concept of sending it back to us, back to you all, there's nothing to be sent back here because the regulations live here until you all vote and certify, as the language in the statute says, a recommendation for an updated regulations. So candidly, it's up to you guys what you want to do with it. So if you want to, the idea, and there was discussion about the 3 documents, could these 3 documents be brought together? You have what Whiskey Rock sent. You could take that, go through it chapter by chapter like you did before with the 2019 version when you went through and had the public comment. You could do that over again. You could do a variety of things, but right now they're here. They're yours. You own them.
Right.
You make the decision as to when they are satisfactory to this group.
So let me,
after listening to public comment, and then you certify them to the Board of County Commissioners, and then they hold their own public hearing and then make a decision that matches the Administrative Procedures Act.
right. There was a question posed when one of the questions they posed was, so what will you do on Tuesday? And I said, unless you tell me otherwise, what I would recommend is that we work from the what we submitted in 2023, and we use Whiskey Rock's report as input. We have the public comment we use as input, and we work from that draft. And there was nothing that said, no, don't do that or do something else. So I mean, that was essentially what I took to mean.
And essentially, you all can take that. It's the regulations are in your hand, and that's I think that was as I saw the wrap up of that conversation was, it's your baby. You guys do what you want to do, and if that's what you all decide to do, great. I just wanted to point out that right now it's yours.
So
it's in your hands.
So if we vote on it tonight, whatever up or down, or whatever happens there, then it's their baby. Is that correct?
Yes. So Administrative Procedures Act statute and your regulations require there to be public meetings and public hearings at the planning and zoning level first, and then you all certify regulations once they're whatever that draft is, whatever that document is that you're satisfied with, that you want to say, here's what we want the regulations to look like. You vote, you certify, you send them up. And then they have to follow their own process of notice. And then they have a public hearing process as well.
And then they could chuck it back to us with the directions or instructions they want, or
they could, at that point, they could send it back and say, no, we want some more work on this, or they could simply make those changes themselves. So for discussion's sake, if they say, if the regulations, and I'm just pulling this out of thin air, and I don't even know what they say, but there's a sign let's say there's a sign regulation that says your sign can only be, 24 square feet. Okay. And they go and they hear public comment, and the public comment is, well, we're driving really fast. The speed limit's back, and then we're 55, and now it's 70. We want a bigger sign so people can see it. And the public says, yeah, we want a bigger sign. And they all get together and say, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's have a 36 square foot sign to allow for bigger letters. They can make that change in that process. And then once they finally vote on it, then it is the regulations moving forward. So the point being, they can take and make modifications following public hearings and everything else once they get them. It's not they get what you send them and have to say, we accept these as they are in total or reject them.
Oh, I understand that, yeah.
So it's very, very similar to how the process worked with when you all did, and I can't remember who was here when short-term rentals were discussed. I know you weren't, but I think the 3 of you were during the short-term rental process.
Mm-hmm.
You guys had the public hearings, you went round and round, you finally came down to consensus, you voted, certified them to the Board of County Commissioners. They had their own big meeting, people came in, said what they said, they voted on them, they became added to the regulations under that chapter. So similar process. But ultimately, and I'm not telling you guys what to do, but it is yours. You can do what you want to do with it.
Yes, sir. Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Oh, I can wait.
No, please.
Well, I just, I guess my feeling is where this has already been a 5-year process in P&Z, we've had a consultant who actually does this for a living, whether or not his, methods are like, I'm not a consultant, so his work seemed fine to me. I would be inclined to let somebody else lay eyes on it. Most of the public comment I've got has been for issues with specific things where they want it to be less restrictive, and that may just be the people I talk to, but I'm not confident that that's going to happen if we go through a rewrite. I would be interested in seeing what the commissioners, like, they don't feel like we're putting in work. They can put in some work and let us know what they want to do. Let the public talk to them.
Well, nobody has said we're not putting in work. I think there was actually quite a
I'm
bit
pretty
of.
sure that was said explicitly at
Okay,
the
well,
commissioner meeting.
all right. Well, I think we would be remiss in our duties if we were to do that. There wasn't a single commissioner that thought that this was ready for prime time, or that it was. We've been asked to work on it. This is our job. I assume we all volunteer our time to do this because it's something we care about and we're passionate about. My opinion is that we should do the work, but I hear you.
No, I'm willing to do it. It just, I guess I share some of Blake's fears that this drags on for several more years. And depending on, we've had more public input recently with, I don't know what it is. We've been working on this as long as I've been on the board with very little feedback. And then suddenly I've been getting a lot of feedback. And so maybe it is useful while people are interested to, continue to look and get this draft or the Whiskey Rock draft in front of them where they can come to us or come to meetings with, thoughts. But I feel like there's a short window there. I don't think that people are going to stay passionate about this for a long time. So we ought to strike while the iron's hot, I think, if that's the case. That's all for me.
Any other comments or thoughts? We'll have other opportunities. If there's nothing right now, we'll turn it over to public comment. Let me ask if there's anybody in the room that would like to make any comments regarding the regulations, the regulation process. Anything regarding the regulations is fair game.
I just walk over here, Tammy.
Well, I always have something to say.
And please just state your name for the record.
Sure. It's Tammy Crossan. And I have read through a good bit of the regulations that have been redlined. And I don't think that a lot of the concerns that have been brought up in the last 4 years have been considered in the regs. There's nothing about agricultural changes, like with the resort piece. There's been nothing in that sort. And so I really just don't think the information that the public has given, and I've been involved in this for probably 4 or 5 years, I don't think a lot of the information by over 100 people has been put into the red line version. So I do agree with Chase as far as the commission should have a drop dead date. I think they need to give a little bit more direction so that we're not spinning our wheels. Right? So I don't know. Do you guys have the power to, you know?
The power of recommendation is what we have.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking I really feel bad for all 5 of you because you have this very long document that's been redlined and a lot of people don't see their concerns addressed in it. I mean, I know my concerns are not addressed in it. Do you have the power to hire your own consultant to do this?
We
And
have
to look
no
through-
budget.
What's that?
I said we have no budget to do anything.
Well, could you not recommend? Well, we can sell Girl Scout cookies and get some money for you guys or something, can't we? Dog walking campaign, I don't know.
Maybe there could be some
But-
donations from the public.
There we go.
There, you get my tax dollars, I just don't know. I mean, you don't, you absolutely don't, but the commission does, and they should use it accordingly. I'll let them know. But, sure.
This is where I think there's some
Oh.
confusion with the concept of consultant. So at the end of the day, the lion's share and what you're talking about is an issue of policy. So a consultant can come in, and Jeremy's here and he can chime in on this, but the reality is like a consultant can come in and can say, in the experience that I've seen, if you are analyzing this question through this process, it is confusing, or this has led to requests for judicial review at a higher rate than this type of process over here. A table here is more user friendly, which is actually one of the things Jeremy did that was really handy in the update. But at the end of the day, we can bring in 20 consultants and they're all going to say, when you're talking about the definition of something, or if you're talking about where you want development in the county and so on and so forth, and they're going to say the same thing, which is that's a policy decision for your political process to determine.
Right.
And so I don't know, and that I think is where we're at with this process, is coming up to the point of, okay, have we reached, and has the policy of the county been distilled through the process? And I'm hearing you say, well, no, because my concerns have not been distilled and they haven't been part of that process. And I think when you get in this room, no one's going to agree on what they want it to be. And that's why these guys are here, to ultimately make that decision to recommend moving up. The same way when we spent hours talking about landing strips and you guys sat down and decided on a definition and then you voted on it and it went moving forward. And that's how all these red lines ultimately took place, was a discussion, a vote, consensus, moving on. And at the end of the day, a consultant's not going to change the fact that a policy decision needs to be made by a policy maker. They can come through and say, your regulations are confusing because this section conflicts with this section, which Jeremy has done, and we've worked through, and we've distilled and moved all the definitions into one spot, so you didn't have a definition for one thing in the main definitions and then a completely different definition in the subdivision group. And so those are the things that they can do, and those are the things that have been done. But policymakers need to make that decision.
I'm just going to say.
Let's not turn this into it.
We're going to tag team.
I'm giving you a lot of leeway here, Clayton. This is not a conversation between two people, so please address
occasionally.
Okay.
Address the board, please.
Or I don't have anything anymore. You were going to say something.
I always have something to say. I guess my feeling is I am one of 100 people who have stood up and talked about agricultural land uses, and there is no change in that in the new regulations. I do believe if you hire a consultant, if you could, and do outreach to the public based upon what you currently have now, could it be refined? I just don't feel like I've been heard.
Okay.
Do you want this back?
I don't
No.
have anything else to say.
It was your fault. You gave it.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to comment right now?
Mike Crossan, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The problem, as I've said repeatedly, is that policy is critical, but the commissioners should have, at the outset of this, dictated what kind of policy considerations should have been in these regulations. We can't go forward without some kind of policy direction. So you're sitting there spinning your wheels. I read these things. I can't make sense of them, even though I've spent my career reading things, because we don't know what went on behind those closed doors with the P&Z office who formulated these things. We don't know why these decisions were made. We're left with a draft that we have a red line, but we don't know how they came to those conclusions. So there's really no way I feel like you guys can make an informed decision on any of this. I don't feel like I can. I guarantee I could debate any of you, if we spend a day going over those, and I could make your head spin. And as could you mine, probably, because we don't know. They just don't make sense in totality because no one was involved. The problem with this is the P&Z board should have been the central players in this, not the P&Z office. So we're in a mess, and I think we need to put it back to the commissioners, let them formulate policy so we can go forward with this as it should go.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? If not, we'll turn it over to. Okay. All right, I see one hand raised online. Mr. Grimm, go ahead and speak, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I am speaking to you, I guess, as a member of public as a result of the board action, which I understand was to conclude my contract. But I want to say a couple things. Free advice, at this point, so take it or leave it. I've done this a lot. And what you have now is a organized, revised draft and audit. What I would recommend is that you spend maybe 3 meetings, 2 or 3, try to work through 4 to 6 chapters per meeting. This is always an iterative process where you continue to refine and try to reach consensus, but break it into 2 or 3 meetings. Whether it's the definition of a guest ranch or a question on how something is going to work procedurally in the code, kind of work through those questions, identify them. Again, as was described, try to come to consensus, take a vote on that, wherever that falls, then move on to the next item. And then you'll end up with a consolidated document. Hopefully there's not a whole lot of changes, but you incorporate those adopted, approved, agreed upon tweaks, and then you hold another public hearing, and pending a lot of public comment or great public comment, move to pass that on to the commissioners. If you proceed down that path, I would be happy to be a resource to you. Timing wise, I've got limitations, but if you put your questions in writing, I would be more than happy to give you background, thoughts, direction. That's how I thought this was going to proceed at this point, but every road's a little different. So I want to offer my support, take it or leave it, like it or not. If you have questions on definitions or application of the code, if you want to put those in writing, I'll try to get back to you within a week and a half. With thoughtful, clear responses. And from where you're at right now, this is typical that these come back to the Planning Commission and they digest them, they read them one last time, tweak it as they like, and then make a motion to confirm it and send it on to the Board of County Commissioners. With that, I'd answer any questions. Public comments typically not for questions, but if you have any, I'm here, and sincerely want you to have a good product and try to reach consensus.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Grimm? No. Okay.
No questions, but appreciate the offer to continue helping where we need it, because I probably do. So.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
Dennis, you all know how to reach me, so shoot me an email, or if you're up in this area, stop by. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, please go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity. I just got back from a long day. I'm trying to get my thoughts in order here, but 2 points. One is that I personally spent many hours reviewing these regulations or the draft regulations and writing detailed comments on topics such as short-term rentals, the problem being the accessory dwelling units, which in effect doubles the density of housing in the county. In effect, an R5 would be an R2.5, an R10 would be an R5. You got 2 houses on that lot. And then there's no requirement that the owner who's renting the property even has to be there. So research I read basically talks about these things destroying neighborhoods. And so I don't think that private property rights extend to the point where we just are allowed to betray our neighborhoods, have loud parties, things like that. And there's absolutely no enforcement. I mean, if there's a problem, you have to go to the planning office, or I guess you call the sheriff. And so that's a cost for the county to have a sheriff come out at 2 in the morning or something like that. And so that's disappointing. And I don't feel like I ever get any response to my comments. I don't feel like anybody reads my comments. And so that's very disappointing because a lot of hours goes into these. I put a set of recommendations together to the county commission and to you folks on wildlife migration, talking about the amount of the corridor that's actually private versus public. And when you look at the different zoning, only about 4% is agricultural and a fraction of a percent is residential in that corridor. And so all we have to do to protect that corridor is just not do concentrated development on that 4% of ag land, or further divide those residential lots, and you've protected your corridor. I don't understand what is so hard about that. And then the governor's executive order talks on and on about providing incentives for landowners. And so there's money for conservation easements. I proposed in my recommendations that the county have somebody that's raising money to help promote these things, to give people incentives to keep their property undivided. I mean, it doesn't have to be some cruel mandate, but I mean, we do have a responsibility to the wildlife that is really a very important part of this county's heritage. And I think that it needs to be paid more attention. Anyway, that's my rant for the night. And I appreciate you guys being able to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. And for what it's worth, I'll tell you, I read your emails and appreciate the input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other online comments? That's still John. Yeah. We've got Dan, go ahead. Dan, are you there?
There we go. Can you hear me?
We got you.
It seems to me that there's some very good points being made tonight by the board. I'm not sure how we're going to get to a consensus on what the Board of County Commissioners is desiring without getting some direction from them. So it's either they've got to give us that direction, or by request, or by passing along the baton to them in some manner to get some input. Otherwise, we could be swinging around for a long time trying to get this right, what represents the county in a broad brush stroke. Won't meet everybody's needs, but I agree with what John Carter said. I submitted plenty of verbal and written comment. I didn't get any response from the planning and zoning administrator to my written comments that were submitted. I know that we did work through, because I was at a great number of the meetings through my comments, and I appreciate that happened. But I also see that Whiskey Rock or Planning and Zoning Administration changed some things that were decided upon the meeting in the document, and I'm not sure how that happened and why that happened. Disappointed with the result in what I thought would be a well-crafted document. And I think the Board of County Commissioners needs to give guidance on how we're going to get to this final community agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We've got LK.
That's me, Lisi.
Okay, go ahead, Lisi.
I don't have much to say that Dan and John haven't said, but I do want to say that I'm kind of unclear now about how public input takes place at this point. And so I think we need to have clarification about that. And maybe you can't give that clarification because the process hasn't been worked out entirely. But we have a messy document to deal with that doesn't reflect a lot of the input we've given. And so I guess I just have a question about that. What's the process for public input at this point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think Blake, that's what Blake was raising earlier. I think was your point is how do you, as we go through this, if public wants to comment, and we have the original regs, the version we submitted in 2023, and the Whiskey Rock regs. It's hard to know where the public should put their focus and how to make comments even. So I think we do need to put some process there to make that clear. What I would say, coming into this meeting, what I took away from the meeting on Tuesday with the commissioners was going back to our 2023 regs. So I guess what to work from those, using the Whiskey Rock report as input to those. And so that is a complicated path for the public to follow. I will agree with that. And I wish that weren't the case, but I think that folks can comment on the regs as we go through them. I think as Mr. Grimm suggested, I suspect we will go, chapter by chapter, and that when we get through to a particular chapter, someone in the public that wants to, we will be discussing as part of that what Whiskey Rock has proposed amongst public comment and other things that we get. And so in some way it's all focused on the 2023 regs update with multiple points of input. That's the best that I can say as we sit here right now. And I understand that that's not, that leaves a lot of complexity for the public to navigate. And I'm sorry for that.
Just to drill down on that a little bit. So is the best way for public is coming to meetings? Should they send emails? Is there some other way for them to comment?
Yeah, any and all
is
a
Twitter account or anything, like.
Whoa.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I would say I would encourage the public to engage in any way that they can. I think showing up is always very valuable. I wouldn't say that it's given like any higher or lower priority than written comments, but certainly having a presence and speaking in this forum is a great way to communicate. But I think we will all read written comments as well. So some people will do one or the other. Some people will do both, and any and all is appreciated.
It would be nice if it were the case that we could have some idea of what's going to be discussed at what meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's a long and complicated document. So it would be good to have a heads up in enough time so that we can do the work we need to do.
Yes, we will look to communicate about what chapters we intend to cover on which dates is how we did it last time, and I suspect we would do the same thing this time.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. There's looks like Pat Burrows. Go ahead.
Hey, Chris and board, thank you for listening to me for a few minutes. You can hear me, I assume.
We can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say that apparently, if you don't write a letter or write an email, then it doesn't appear that those are at all the public comments, like here now tonight, mean nothing, because at the board meeting on Tuesday, Dennis said multiple times, I have received no input I've not received any information from anybody. So all of the comments that we have made over the years as board members and as public have just flown out the window. I know that some people like Dan Bailey I think, wrote a 17-page document concerning the changes. And so I don't believe that public comment is being given any sort of grade as far as it being even, or that it's even listened to, because Dennis said at that, and you can go back and listen to the commissioners meeting, he said, I've not received any comments. I've not received any comments, and several times. So if you don't put it in writing, and then sometimes I think it may disappear somewhere, but it does not. So anyway, so you need to write an email to the commissioners, to the board of the planning and zoning board members, and to the county commissioners, and to Dennis, and to the consultant if you have one. So there is a lot to it. My comments as far as the regulations go, there are one of the big things that was put in there, and it was dropped in at, I don't know, somehow or another, was the cluster developments that could go on 35 acres. And that was just kind of dropped out of the sky. It was not discussed at the planning and zoning meetings because I was on the board at that time. And it just appeared. And we said, what is this about? And Dennis and Tess said, we like it. It needs to be in there, and we're going to put it in there. So my comment is, if you have as many things in these new regulations as appear to be in them that are all given, that the planning and zoning, the county planner can make decisions on by himself, then probably the county planner at some point needs to be an elected position, because they're making too many decisions on their own. If you read these new regulations, that they just have all kinds of things that they can do and make their own, and just no regulation at all. And also, there are many definitions that are not, that are written, there's things written into the regulations that don't have definitions, such as what is a tent? Are we going to end up with glamping organizations like they have in Teton County and no way to regulate those? Or are we going to have a county planner who just makes arbitrary decisions whenever he wants to with no oversight whatsoever? And so I think that there's a lot of things in this red line thing that absolutely has to be addressed and hasn't been. And if you're going to make comments, you darn well better put them in writing to multiple people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pat. Mr. Grimm, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission. I'll be brief. Some good feedback. What I would recommend, instead of starting at that 2023 version, I would take it or leave it. I'd recommend starting with the version that I delivered you, simply because a lot of elements, such as moving the definitions into one coordinated space, consolidating the administrative actions, enforcement. There's a lot of even no substantial or material change to the code, just reorganization. Just from the organization perspective, that the draft that I delivered with the charts rather than the actual text of the zones, if you start with that version, it should be pretty clear what changes were made and differences there are from your 2023. And I only mention that just because structurally, for no other purpose, it works a lot better as delivered than what you had. So I just wanted to leave with that. And again, feel free to put in writing. I'm happy to help you as I can going forward, and reach out. Thanks.
Thank you. I see no other hands online. If there are, please raise them. Otherwise, I'll turn back to the room and ask if there's any public comment from anybody that hasn't spoken, or you have, either way. Okay, so I'm hearing a few things. One is that folks would like more direction from the Board of County Commissioners. I'm hearing that we've got a moment in time in which we feel like the public is engaged in this process, which is a benefit to informing the regulations. Are there some other takeaways, I think, and needing to devise a clear plan that lets the public participate in a way that they're able. Those are the main takeaways I'm hearing here, which does leave us in a bit of a tricky spot. I think that direction from the Board of County Commissioners is important, and we need to get that. The mechanism for that, I suppose, could be showing up at a Board of County Commissioners meeting, perhaps providing something in writing in advance, and seeking input before we proceed with our work here. But happy to hear any other thoughts or comments that you all have.
I have a job. I can't attend the county commissioner meetings. As much as I would like to, I cannot attend those meetings. If they want us to do something, they need to let us know through whatever means, but we don't have to should not have to attend a meeting to be directed on what to do.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts?
it would be nice to have more direction about policy from them. And all the years I've been here and the 12 different people that sat on that board, none of them have ever done it. So I don't know that we'll get that. We could ask, but if we don't set a clear timeline today of what we want to do and how we're going to move forward, that's 2 weeks. And then then we need to notice the next meeting, especially if it's a special meeting and not a normal meeting. So then that puts us into May already, where I would like to leave here with us and the public having an idea of what we're going to work from and when the next meeting's going to be and what chapters, and still ask the commissioners for if they have better direction or policy or that. But I just think if we don't set a real timeline today and move forward, just with the way noticing and everything is, we're just already into summer before we're going to have the first meeting about talking about redoing this again. And then my only other comment isn't about the process, but to all the people that feel that their comments weren't heard, all of your comments were heard. And to Dan and everyone that came to all those meetings, like, I think it's hard to say if you attended all of them that there was not great compromise. Did anybody get everything they wanted? No. But did everything get the things that people just wanted us to say, you can no longer do this and take people's rights away? No. Did we do that? But we made it a heck of a lot harder, and you had a lot more hoops to jump through, and it was way more regulated, and the public had a lot greater. It was just I just think it's hard for people to not say that the document from 2023 was a great compromise on everyone's part, from the left to the right to the center, that everyone sat here and really tried to come up with a very good middle ground. But did anyone get everything they wanted? No. I don't think anyone can say that through this whole process they got everything that they wanted, because I know I didn't. And I just think that it was a great compromise, and that I just want everyone to remember that that's what we're trying to do, is have a compromise of what a good thing is, not I got my way, because that's just not good policy.
Thank you.
I completely concur with Blake. Very well said. I think that, like I said, I wasn't the one that put so much time. I came to a lot of those meetings as a citizen, but a ton of time was put into this. And that's where, to be honest, I'm at the point that I think we should just vote on it tonight. I like the product that was presented, and I think we should just vote on it. And if it passes, turn it over to the commissioners as is, because we haven't been given any direction. I think that we've already spent a ton of time on this. We have very much appreciated the interactions and the opinions from the public. And this process will continue with the commissioners, but I think where we're at is it's a good product, and it's been a process that's been long enough, and I don't think that we need to go through it line item by line item again. I think that where it stands, I'm happy with it.
Okay.
Okay, Skinny. Go ahead. I understand your feelings, but I also know that this is not something that they want and they're going to approve. And as much as I don't want to go through it again, I want to get it right. I want to do it right for the public. I want to give them a product that we can all move forward with and doesn't get kicked back. But if this board went that route, I mean, it would definitely push the ball down a hill. Where it's going to end up, I don't know, but it would. So anyone can make a motion they want, but I would like to spend a little more due diligence in trying to come up with something that everyone can work with and that we could actually get past and through. Because I just think is what the Whiskey Rock thing is now, that there's no way that they're gonna go with it and not instantly kick it back to us. So, Tess, do you know how much is on our meeting in April? 2 applications.
There's a
Complicated one.
a vacation and a CUP.
So in terms of that thing of how do we move forward and what does the public work from, where I really, other than the questions that we had in the 2023 document of functionality and words and better ways to do this, which with some time we could have worked through, on our own. I was never a fan of the consultant. I want to do Sublette County things, Sublette County ways with Sublette County people, but that's also because I'm a Sublette Countyan. So to me, it would make more sense that, which I understand Jeremy's point of, the document cleaned up is more presentable, which it is easier to read. The tables are great, where I would say for our first meeting, whatever we decide how we want to move forward and have our first meeting, that we really work from the 2023 document, and then we take the things we like from Whiskey Rock's presentation or his adaptation and add it to the 2023, because the reorganization and where the definitions are will be easy. We could make a motion and all agree on it, not sit and have to re-talk about the whole thing, because it's there to see already. So that's my take on it. But I'm not against taking the Whiskey Rock thing and going through it chapter by chapter and tearing it apart too. We just have to, all 5 of us, understand where we're working from, and for all of them to understand where to approach us from. So,
yeah. Well, I've already expressed, I think it would be good to get it in front of the commissioners. I'm also okay going back through if that's where we end up. I'm not confident that when we do that they're going to approve what we put in front of them anyway. And are we, 3-4 months or 6 months or a year or whatever down the road at that point? As you mentioned, even if we request feedback, we may not get it. And I think a sure way of doing that is sending it to them. So.
It is one way to do it. I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's a way.
Yeah.
Well, I was pretty much in favor of voting to send it down to him, but I think Blake's made a couple of good points. But I don't want it to drag on, I can tell you that. We have spent an awful lot of time in it. And contrary to what people think, I've read it. I've read the comments. I've listened to comments. Well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So I think we take one of 2 paths here. Either someone makes a motion, Holly, that you raised, or we start setting a schedule. So it'd be good to know which path we're going down.
So I would like to make a motion that we pass on the Whiskey Rock version of the regulations to the Planning and Zoning Board, or to the Board of County Commissioners, as is.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table that we recommend the Whiskey Rock version of the regulations to the Board of County Commissioners. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, or actually, is there any comment before we vote? Sorry.
No, I think we vote.
I'll reiterate that I think we are remiss in our duties if we do this, but all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
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 All right, motion fails. So then that leaves us with the task, I suppose, of scheduling dates to start working through this. Are folks prepared to do that this evening, or is that something that I don't know about people's calendars? And I mean, we have.
It's not 9 o'clock yet.
Right, but I don't know if people have a, their calendars in front of them or not. I do. I'm happy to do that, but.
Well, we have to.
Or we could set
day,
the next, well, no, if we call a special meeting, it's not 30 days. It's less.
For me, I think that it's new information. It would be good to have a little time to prepare for the next meeting. I mean, I think it would be good to go through and discuss kind of a plan of attack and schedule. But to give us some sort of a purview of what we're going to be working on so that we can prepare and also give the public some time to read those chapters or whatever we end up on and provide some feedback. And I guess just to clarify, who was it? Pete? Is that Pat? Pam?
Pat.
I think that when there's no public comment, that's within the time frame of like that meeting. I know there's been a lot of letters, but we don't bring those up with each subsequent meeting. So it's, if you've commented previously and that comment's the same, send it again.
So our next regular meeting
17th, right?
is the 17th, yes. So we could do one of two things. We could go ahead and schedule a special meeting. We could do it after that. So we, speaking to your comment, have some time and the public have some time. Or we could talk about scheduling that at the next meeting. What would folks like to do?
Oh, I would rather I think for the benefit of the public that we at least pick the first date today. I mean, wouldn't you all like to have a definite date that we're gonna push the ball down the hill again? No.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So what about the same time on the 24th? That would be 1 week after our regular meeting.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It's good.
So what we did last time, I think, was a good approach in that we didn't start with the definitions chapter because we will be talking about definitions throughout. So I think we would start with chapter 2. And if we wanted to set out, I mean, I don't know how ambitious to get here. We could say that we endeavor to talk about chapters 2 through 4, or we'll see how far we get.
I say we at least do 3, and then, I mean, if we don't get that far, then we don't get that far. And then, but does the public need to work from, excuse me, the Whiskey Rock adaptation or the 2023?
I think that the public should look at the 2023. That's the draft that I think we should work from. And as you said, we will move things from the Whiskey Rock into that as it makes sense. So I think looking at the Whiskey Rock draft would make a lot of sense because we will be talking about it.
Is the sorry.
So please go ahead.
That's the 2023 version is still on the website, right? I thought I saw it there.
Is there a reason not to do that in reverse? Is it just because he's not from Sublette County, or what's the, I mean, a more refined copy? Couldn't we not take things that we like from the 23 copy and implement it into the final version?
Well, I like working from the copy that we sent on because it's something that we worked on personally and we have familiarity with it. And the copy that is from Whiskey Rock is, I think we will not gain clarity on the rationale necessary for many of the things that are in that report. And I think that creates opportunities for ambiguities and disconnects myself. So I would personally prefer to work from the version that we submitted and use the Whiskey Rock as input, which is what I proposed to the commissioners and they agreed with. But obviously, as Clayton said, it's in our hands. So if the group would like to do otherwise, that lives with us.
And Chase, my rationale on that is Mike and everyone else's comment is the 2023 version that we passed along. We all know what we sat here and talked about and how we got to those conclusions and the compromises we made and all of those things we sat here and voted on. And that's how it either got in or it got out, where if we take Jeremy's version, we're taking the things that are different from what 2023 is. We don't know why it's that way, where to me, it's just easier for me to know the things that I worked on and that I sat here and I talked with all these people about, and then bring in the things that I like that Jeremy brought. But either way, it does not matter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just feel like we paid a professional to give us a product, and I've been faulted for this before, but I tend to rely on professionals. This is not my profession, and so the rationale for that document, I think that if there's something that we don't like from the final document to the 23, we can make those changes. But as far as like I think it's a really nice document. I like it.
Well, there's a lot of great things about it.
If it's things that were put in there that we didn't agree on, or wasn't part of our discussions and compromises, then that's totally fine. But I would prefer to do it in the reverse.
I'm indifferent. I just want to make sure that the public understands where the top of the hill is and how we're moving forward.
I think it will take significantly longer to do it that way. But Holly, did you have a comment?
Yes, we're gonna fight over here.
I'll scoot back.
I agree with Chase. I think we should work from the Whiskey Rock version of it. I really like it. I think it's a good product. I think then if people want to bring in stuff from the 2023, particularly public comment, they can use the 2023 version as a reference, bring that over in their comments on each one. But I agree that I think we should start with the finish, or what, not the finish, excuse me, with the product that we have from Whiskey Rock. I like that version of the document.
I'm just saying, if we were to vote on it,
Can you use the microphone, please?
Is if we made it a vote of which way we wanted to go, I would be willing to compromise and work it the other way. I just want to make sure we are all on the page of where we're starting and how we're moving forward.
Yes.
That's just.
I agree.
Chris, do you mind? Why do you feel like it would take significantly longer? Because I don't necessarily want to do that either.
I think that it's because I think the amount of things in there that we're gonna have questions about are gonna be like, if we say, okay, let's take what we like out of this version, that's a fairly straightforward conversation and copy it over to the version that we all passed on. I think if we have to work through a version in which we have little knowledge about a lot of the rationale, it was kind of what Mike was saying, like we're going to have 5 different interpretations of how that came to be and why it's there and what to make of it and what the implications of that are, that I just think it's going to require a lot more diligence on our part to work through. So I think it's just going to take a lot more time. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
No matter which way we go, we'll get through it. That's what I know. But we just need to decide.
Well, I mean, I think the decision lives with the group. So wherever the majority opinion lies, let's run with it.
How do you feel, Kenny?
I like the Whiskey Rock approach is what I would like to do. I don't really know how we're going to bring. Well, either way, it's going to be tough. There's just no getting around it. But I like what Whiskey Rock did, and I like the graphs and the charts in there, and the definitions are pretty clear to me. I would go that way.
I guess I'm less concerned with the process with how that product came from the 2023 product. The thing that I'm unclear on is where there's like a mention of something like with legality or something where we're going to get ourselves into trouble with that document. And I guess I don't understand that, or like, is there something in the final document that, like, what's the issue with how the process for how they got to where they got? Like, anytime you send something off to somebody with an idea, you get something back. And I think that it encapsulates everything that we sent off just in a much cleaner format. There was nothing in there that was like really concerning to me. So I'm wondering what that was, or is there something I'm missing, I guess?
My interpretation is there's lots of things in there that are not. So if you, Chase, said, "Hey, Chris, I've got this real estate listing. I got a draft here. Can you just clean it up for me?" And I came back and I added a bunch of new descriptions and paragraphs that had nothing to do. You'd probably expect me to go in and clean up typos, maybe change some words, maybe change a few pictures or something. But like if I came back with a radically different listing, that's what I equate this to, right? Like there's many things in there that are just very different. They're not clarifications of what we had done, and we didn't get a lot of answers to the things that we asked, and we got answers to things we didn't ask. So that's the general issue that I have. Well, that's one of them.
Can I ask the public a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
So for you people online and the people in here, what way do you feel that it would be easier for you to work this problem from working from Whiskey Rock and bringing 2023 in, or the other way? Or do you have feelings on it, or do you just want to know where we're starting? So that's my question to you.
We've got an answer in the room here first.
I say 2023 because I've read through them and there's a lot of erroneous information. There's even misspellings. It's sad, but I would rather work through the 2023. And I'm sorry, this is Tammy.
We've got a Lisi. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd rather work from the 2023 because it was the draft with the most public input. I don't know if there was public input to the Whiskey Rock draft. So I think in terms of working with the public and in terms of ease, we're better off to start with the 2023 and then bring in, organizationally, we can bring in organizational strategies that Whiskey Rock used, but I don't think that should be how we start out. I think we should start out with the 2023 draft and then bring in what we need to from Whiskey Rock. I think that's a better way for public to participate. Thanks.
Thank you. I see another hand raised, I think. Dan, go ahead.
Hello, Chairman, thank you, and Board of Planning and Zoning. I think that the best way forward is to get more direction from the commissioners. I said that before, and I know that you guys decided not to, but maybe it doesn't have to be that it's going to be voted up or down, but maybe we can get some clarification of where we're heading so we don't waste hours and hours of time. I'm hearing that clearly from the board that we don't want to waste all that time. In terms of which one that we go with, I see things that were added and taken away that were not done with the public. It's unfortunate that Jeremy Grin is available now, but he wasn't available when we were spending all the time before. I don't quite understand the process. I'm familiar with the 2023 that was submitted. I don't understand, like I said, where some of the changes in the Whiskey Rock document came from. Not understanding where they came from. I don't know why I have to try to find what was added by Whiskey Rock or Planning and Zoning Administrator. I don't know the source of it. So that's my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. I don't see anyone else online. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to say anything? Yes, Mike. Mr. Cross.
And just really quick, I just want to clarify, Dan, I don't think we didn't say we didn't want directions from the commissioners, and that, which we didn't discuss this, but I think that we still either send them an email or ask to be on the agenda at the next meeting and at least go and make them aware that we would like more direction. And then if they choose to give it to us, greatly. And if not, I just think we're continuing this process so we have a starting point and we know where we're starting and what day we're starting.
Agreed, Blake. Agreed. Thank you for that clarification, Blake.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I agree wholeheartedly with Dan. I think the best thing to do at this point is kick it forward. I think the document is fatally flawed, but absent that, definitely the 2023 version is the one you need to work with for all the reasons said. People are more familiar with it. We understand the rationale and logic for the things in there at this point. So please do the 2023 if you're going to go that route, but I would recommend just kicking it to the commissioners because I think, again, policy considerations should have been the first thing done during this process. And since that wasn't done, you couldn't fix it after that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
You should have said that before Kenny voted no, Mike.
Motions can be raised again.
Can we send that?
Okay, so we've had input from the public. I don't see any other.
If I could say one more thing, this is Dan again.
Sure, go ahead, Dan.
Why not ask the Board of County Commissioners for input and say, and if we don't get it, then we'll kick it forward to you and ask for input then. Leave all the options on the table. So just explain to them where we're at. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So does that, I think we had, my tally was 3 folks that wanted to work from the Whiskey Rock regs and 2 that wanted to work from the 2023. Does that change does public comment change? Go ahead, Pat.
Yes, Chris, Board of Planning and Zoning as well. Thank you for all that you do, for all of your time. I know I've spent a lot of time as well doing what you do. And I just think that working from the 2023 document and adding, and then looking at the Whiskey Rock document is the way that it should be handled, because that is, as Blake said, that's the one that you're familiar with. That's the one that you know. And there's so many changes in the other one that nobody really knows where they came from. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any others. Thank you, Pat. Go ahead, Jeremy, or Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and commissioners and people of Sublette County. Just want to clarify, whatever way you go, Planning Department does have a copy of what was delivered as the final audit, and they also have a copy of one that shows red lines, which is the document that shows all changes from your 2023 to the final product. And I just say if people are unsure what's been changed, that document shows that, the red line. It has a date of September 17th, I believe, on it, 2024. And that'll show you every single thing that's been changed, added, or deleted. So hopefully that's helpful for you.
I think there was an update to that, Jeremy, because you made changes after September of 2024, and I believe you delivered a more recent red line in December for changes made through then.
You're correct, Mr. Chairman. I'm just sitting at my desk here. I have that old one, but correct. There was just a couple additional, nothing substantial, you know, but you know, some typos of a couple movement of pieces. But I guess the point is you do have, and the public does have a document that shows effectively what was delivered as my final audit and recommendation, and what changes were made from that 2023 document that went into that. So again, let me know how I can help you. I want you to have a good product.
Thank you. I don't believe, Tess, that we have the latest, the December one up online. And perhaps we could get that up. Is that possible?
I think it's up there. It's just the date.
I think the one that's there is the one from September.
It says it. Okay. I'll put it
All right. Well, if we could make sure we have the latest and greatest, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Pat, have you raised your hand again, or is that the old hand raise?
Old one.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So let me turn back to the commissioners and ask if this changes anyone's minds, or if we are in the same spot of 3-2 on which version we start with.
I still would like to start with the whiskey.
Okay.
Red line whiskey rock.
The red
I could live with that.
Yeah, the red line whiskey rock.
Red line whiskey.
Yeah, I feel, I understand that we're more familiar with the 2023, but I feel confident that we'll be familiar with the red line copy as well. And being familiar with the 2023, I think will inform that. Whereas if we go the other way and we're working with something we're unfamiliar with to inform it, yeah.
Okay. You look like you want to say something. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So just state your name, please.
It's not going to help either side, but.
Okay. Well, we like all public comments. So
Yeah, you bet. My name is Mike Clower. You guys are constantly going back and forth about wasting time. And I think whatever document you work for without any direction is a waste of time. Like if it got kicked back, the 23 apparently didn't go anywhere. This one's not going anywhere. If no one's giving you direction, what direction are you headed? Did anybody say, hey, we don't like this and this and this and send it back? Or did you say, hey, get rid of that and go back to this and start over? Like without any direction, like you guys all got your hands tied. The time that you're thinking about wasting is any extra minute that you sit on this thing that you're not sure what the next board that's going to approve this is after. So you got to have some sort of, hey, we like this about it or we don't like this. But if somebody's really reviewing this document from start to finish, there's obviously stuff that sticks out that they're not living with, whether it be the public or whether it be the Board of Commissioners or even your own board here. But like without that, like are you just gonna guess for the next few months what you think they want to see? I mean, that's my thing, is like you got to have something. Yeah, and you just wasted 5 years, and I know none of you want to waste 5 more years.
Yeah. Well,
so
thank you for that comment. Appreciate that.
Get all my kids out of high school before we're done with this.
Well, I would say a couple of things. we are off course in some ways and we are on course in some ways. The 2023 version, we never expected to be, we expected that was then going to go to a consultant and then we would get it back here and we would continue to work on before we certified it to the Board of County Commissioners. In that regard, we're doing what we expected to do. The distinct differences are it's many months later that we expected to be working on that in, April or May of 2024, not March of 2025. The other difference is the dissatisfaction related to some of the work. So, that puts us in a different position. But your point is a fair one. I would say, though, that we do have lots of public comment that we did hear, which is, I think the citizens of Sublette County have told us quite a bit about what they think about it. And hopefully we continue to get that. That is, a guiding light for sure. And we have the comprehensive plan, which is what the regulations are the enforcement mechanism of. So the regulations should, when they're doing their job right, be the enforcement mechanism for what's the values, the principles, the goals, the policies that are in the comprehensive plan. So again, that's another guiding light that we have to guide us. Now, having said that, as I've said already multiple times, would love the guidance from the Board of County Commissioners as well. But thank you for your comments. So I think as far as the version we're working from, I think we've settled on we will work from the Whiskey Rock red line is what I heard.
Yeah, do we want to make it an emotion?
I don't think we need to make it a motion, but
Do you have a feeling on that, Clayton? or-
Clayton, do we need to have a motion on that?
so the
Which
public
version we
knows,
work
or-
from?
You're not actually like making
No,
any-
yeah.
there's no-
Right.
there's no actual decision being made.
Right.
So with that being said, is this an appropriate time to set a deadline? Like, we're gonna have this done by the end of May, the end of
Not May.
April?
We didn't have our first meeting till April
Hey,
24th.
think enough.
I mean,
Like, we already have the base for it. Like, I think we do. I think we need to set a deadline because this could drag out forever. I think in my mind, I'm a numbers person. I like to work off of dates. I think we should have a deadline. Like, no matter what, we work our butts off and get it done.
Yeah, I think we can we can absolutely set a deadline. I think the reality is it'll be what it is.
Right.
But sure, I'm happy to set a deadline. I will be much of May, I will not be able to do. So if it's going to be before, in April, I'm happy to put in as many meetings as y'all want to. It sounded like we wanted to have some time before we did our first.
Yeah, well, and I'm gone much of April, so.
Okay, all right.
I'll be back for hopefully the 17th and definitely the 24th.
Okay. All right. So, with that in mind, let's say we're going to get, one meeting in. We got a goal of hitting 3 chapters in that. If we come back in June and do special meetings on top of our regular meetings in June, July, August. I don't know what.
If we got through 3 chapters in every meeting, that's what, 6, 9, 12, 5 meetings we would need.
There's more. Well, let's see. In the version we're working in. Sorry, my computer's not cooperating with me. So let me find the red line version.
17 now.
I'm opening it.
Hours is 16.
I think that's right. That's my recollection as well. My computer's not cooperating. Let's say that that's true.
So that would so right at 5 meetings, we have the first one in April, assuming we can have one in May. It would be nice if we had a deadline of we have something commissioners by the first part of August. I think is more.
So by the end of July,
Yeah.
we finish. I'm on board with that.
I'm on too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see how we do.
And then, well, we've talked about it a lot, and I don't know if I guess it's still not a motion because it's not a thing, but I still think just so that they understand, I mean, hopefully, I mean, Dave was here, but hopefully, I don't know if any of them, rest of them are on Zoom or not, but I would like to, I don't know, a motion or inquiry or see if the board would support Chris or someone writing an email to them and asking for more direction and are asking to be on the next agenda, and we go to them and then just see what kind of response we get, you know, and then still if we get no response and we get no direction, we get through this, we try to get to our July date and we do the thing of where we pass something to them to where they have to pick the baton up. So is everyone else on the board okay with if, not to speak for Chris, but you're good at writing things, if we drafted something and sent them a little synopsis of where we got to and that everyone in the community agrees that a tad bit more direction would be helpful?
I'm agreeable with that, Chris. I would back you on that one.
Sure.
Holly?
Yes.
Yep. Chase?
Okay. Sounds good.
You know,
I will do that.
If they respond to us, I mean, I would hope that they would respond to all of us and not just you. So when you send them the email, but you know, if they want us to come to a meeting or whatever, that you send it to us, and as all of us that can go, try to go.
I suggest that we go ahead. I mean, based on past experience, I think we should go ahead and say we want to be on the agenda for the next meeting, which is April 2nd or 1st, I think. I think we should go ahead and do that. That is the best way to get their response to things, I think. So
I support that. I'll be able to go. I'll make up some reason to be in that building whenever that meeting's going on. Actually, every time I try to do that, something happens and I'm always running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Okay, so I'll talk to Carrie and ask her about getting on the agenda.
And then maybe we just shoot them an email, tell them why we're coming.
Mm-hmm.
They have an idea.
Yep. Okay. Tess, I'm not sure since Dennis is not here what the proper mechanism is here. So as far as the meeting, as a special meeting that we want to do on the 24th of April, is that something that we need to talk to Dennis about, or can you handle that? Or? Okay.
But do we need to make a special meeting in a motion, Clayton?
The chairman can call, well, actually, I'm trying to remember what your bylaws say on this. I thought your chairman could call it.
It's the same as whatever the Public Meetings Act says. Let me see, I've got it here.
For the special meeting, you need to provide notice to those who have requested notice and the rest of the members of the board. So if you're right here doing that, you can do that.
Right, and the notice period for a special meeting is like within at least 8 hours, I believe.
Yeah, so you're.
So we should notify the paper. I'm sure that they have a standing request in, and there's a notification. There's a group, right? That there's an email list that the.
Yeah, county clerk's office maintains the list, right there. Who is requesting notice?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so do I need to do something about that, or Tess, is that something that you'll be in touch with?
I can ask Carrie, or you can ask Carrie.
Okay, if you could do that, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, are there any other things that anybody would like to discuss? Because if not, I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda.
You guys have a question on me?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes. Yeah, so Jaron and I were just emailing back and forth, and I was just wondering how to. So we have, in our bylaws, we talk about that recusals, all disclosures, recusals, and related votes shall be recorded in the meeting minutes. And Jaron was just saying that's not common practice for them, and they're trying to keep things uniform across meeting minutes. So just wanted to know, how should we resolve that?
The clerk's office has been appointed by the commissioners as the recorder of the minutes, which is what bylaws say and statute requires that they do. And your bylaws, which have been approved, says that have to be recorded, so they need to report.
The reasons why we say why they're recused, we don't necessarily why they're recused.
I think we just note that they are recused.
We do say that. We do say what they recused.
Yeah, so if it's recorded that Chase recused himself.
Yes.
then it's recorded that it's recused.
Okay, I misunderstood our conversation because I thought what I asked you was just to note the recusal, not to talk about it.
No, so we had the recusal, like, we recused, but we didn't go into like a reasoning why they recused.
Okay, in the version I had that I commented on, that wasn't in there. Sorry, it was a misunderstanding then. All right, so the minutes, happened to those? Oh, they're in here. The minutes that you shared with me then has that note in there. There was also Mac Bradley's noted in here as Mac B. Do we want to?
That's how they came across. If they come across on here and I.
Oh, you write the Zoom name? That's what you do? Okay, so we know that. Okay.
I just wrote Dan. His last
Okay. Okay, so that being said, has everybody else had a chance to review the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, any corrections or questions? No.
Accept the minutes as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous. I will sign these and give those back to you, Jaren. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, quickly, I would like to just make a quick comment.
Sure.
There's been quite a little bit of angst against the office staff, against Dennis and Tess that I've heard, and I would just like to pass on that I've been very pleased with the staff and what they've done, and so I'd like to just say that not everybody is against what they've done for the process of doing these regulation updates, and I'm grateful for their help.
Great. Thank you, Kenny.
Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I think a lot of the things the office has done has been great, and all the work and the fixing of the website and navigating that process, because especially how difficult the process of our website is, and there's so many different people involved in it. And so I just want to say thank you for all your hard work, Tess and Dennis, if he was here. That it maybe from someone that hasn't been here as long, it doesn't seem, but you know, from where Dennis came from, of walking in an office that was empty and the person had passed away and there was no direction, and you were opening drawers to find out where anything was even at. We've come a long, long ways. I mean, so I just want to thank everyone for how difficult it was to get through Bart's death.
Thank you.
I'll third all of that. And in that same vein, I guess, I don't know how long, it's been 5 or 6 months ago, we were in a position to vote on a chair. And I don't think any of us, Holly and I, were fairly new, weren't really prepared to make that decision at that time. But given some of those comments, for the sake of, I think, the tone of this board, I'd like to motion that we make Holly the chair.
Okay, we've got a motion for Holly to be the chair. Is there a second or any other nominations for chair?
Don't we ask her if she wants to accept it?
I guess that's a good question. Would
No,
you
she
like
doesn't,
to accept the
but
nomination, Holly?
we don't need to ask her.
Yes, I would accept it.
Okay. Any other nominations for chair?
I don't know. It's a lot more work. But
Okay. All right, we've got a motion on the table for Commissioner Roberts to be chair. Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 I
I don't know if you can, I guess you recuse yourself. I don't know, actually. Okay, so motion passes. Holly, congratulations. which brings up the question of vice chair. Currently, Blake is our vice chair. Would anybody like, Blake, do you want to continue serving that role, or is there anybody that would like to nominate a vice chair?
I nominate Blake.
No need to nominate again, I don't think. But
I mean, I will keep doing it if someone else would like to do it. I mean, fine.
if there's no nominations and you're willing to continue doing it, I think you've got the job. Great. All right. Any other items? No. All right. So with that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:59 p.m., 1 hour and 1 minute early. Thank you, everybody. And thanks to the public for your comments. We appreciate them.
So now that we're out of the meeting, are you guys clear on where we're starting and how we're going forward? I'm not saying it makes sense or anything. I'm just saying you get the day we're starting and what we're talking about, right? Okay.
Who would like this?
What is that?
This is the jump drive.
Oh, I would like that, please.
I don't know. Is it gonna go to everybody or just?
I don't know, whoever wants. I don't,
All the public comments that we've received.
I see what the, I don't know if I.
Annie, always good to see you.
And then you go.
Chris, did you recuse yourself on that last vote? I didn't.
No, I said aye.
Okay.
What did you do at the Derby Chase? You went and got stuck?
I what now?
At the fishing derby, what did you do? You went and got stuck up at Sublette or what?
No, I got up there with Jason.
Yeah, well, Dennis. No, I don't. But
Man, I that was everybody to push. If not, we can watch it on YouTube.
What's that?
But if not, we can watch it on YouTube.
Because I asked
Boom.
Terry before I moved you back. I said,
So Jason pulled someone out.
add that extra stuff, but I didn't.
Because when he was explaining it, I was just like, I don't see Chase in any way.
I just try to do it correctly. Clayton,
Like, how do you feel you're living in my first year here? Like,
Okay, I can change it.
Appreciate it. Okay.
I go right by there. I gotta bring all my stuff.
All right, thanks, Darren. Appreciate your help.
Yeah.
Nicest derby ever, though.
It's